Let's talk to David Paul. He is a Managing Director of VectorVest UK. Very good morning to you, David.
Good morning, Mus.
Right, so we have a number of slides, thought-provoking as always, to go through. Headline, The Midas Touch. Hoo-ah. Right, let's move on to your first slide. The UK composite, this is the market timing. We're always talking about the short term and long term. What's the state of play in terms of the UK market?
Okay, well, the short-term trend is up. It's been up since the 29th of October. Longer-term trend is still down. Still got quite a bit of work to do for the longer-term trend to change. When I was on here last time, I talked about our bottom fishing technique, and the bottom fishing technique in a very oversold market allows people to get in right at the turn. And the shares that I talked about the last time I was on here, what, 10 days ago or so, those have all done well in that. So short-term trend is up, longer-term trend is down. And in the next slide, pretty much the same situation in the US. Again, a mega oversold situation, and short-term trend up from the same day, longer-term trend still down. I like the way it gapped through that little trend line, and that's the VectorVest composite. But on the Dow itself, the market stopped at a 78% retracement of the last major range to the tick, and that always makes me believe that there's some very smart money buying at the minute. Good numbers out of the US last week. Payroll numbers were excellent. A number that I always look at is the ISM manufacturing PMI, and that stood me in really good stead over the years. And that came in at a very robust 57.7, which shows
well over the 50 level.
Shows good expansion, yes. So all the numbers that come out of the US are still indicative of a bull market. And Dr. Bart Toledo, who's the founder of VectorVest, as I've mentioned before on here, has a model that he's been working with now for 30 years, which is based on interest rates, earnings and inflation, and he's still sure that we're in a bull market in the US market. So let's get over the next couple of days. With any luck, we'll get some form of action on the trade dispute between the US and China, and I think that there's a high probability we're going to see a nice run up into Christmas.
Understood. Okay, let's move on to the next slide, the Colts 45 chart. I've never seen this before.
Well, this is the Midas Touch, which what I want to try and talk about. Another VectorVest proprietary trading technique. Last time I was on here, we talked about bottom fishing. But the Midas Touch is a tool that was, in fact, put together to initially trade the American Gold Bugs Index, which is an incredibly volatile creature.
Yeah, I can only imagine that.
The technique was put together to try and filter out the short-term noise and focus on the long-term trends. So it's particularly useful for commodity counters. Now, every day, VectorVest puts a buy, sell, or a hold recommendation to every share on the stock market. The sell, or the trailing stop loss, is based around an adjusted 65-day moving average of the price of the share. Now, in the Midas Touch technique, we take a 10-day moving average of the VectorVest stop loss. Now, the VectorVest stop loss, as I've just said, is based around a 65.
So it's a 10-day on the 65?
That's correct, yes. So it's a double smoothing. Right. So on the chart, we've got a 10-day of the VectorVest stop. We've got a 65-day of the VectorVest stop, and then we use a 40-day average of the VectorVest momentum, short-term momentum indicator RT. And we mathematically massage those to give ourselves long-term position trading signals which eliminate the noise. And on the next chart, you'll see an example of that. Now, this is Anglo, and the green line is the 10-day of the VectorVest stop loss. The red is the 65-day of the VectorVest stop loss.
So basically, when they cross, you buy or you sell?
Well, that's correct. For a buy, we need the RT, 40-day RT must be above 1 on a scale between 0 and 2, and the moving averages should have crossed, and that's the buy signal. We need both together for a buy signal. In other words, the moving averages have crossed, indicating the trend is up, and the momentum is rising at the same time. And similarly, when they cross down, as happened a few months ago in Anglo, and I looked at charts for so many years I can hardly see this one, but without the glasses, moving averages crossed down and the RT 40 went down below 1, then that's a sell signal. That got us out of Anglo a few months ago. And as we speak, we're just about to get a new buy signal on Anglo. So I'm actually looking personally at adding to my portfolio, adding some Anglos into my portfolio once I get that signal. And I think that's just a few days ago. So in the next slide, you can see what the underlying volatility looks like. That's the same chart. It's just a simple candle chart of Anglo. And although in hindsight, it looks obvious that you would have held it the whole way up, it's not that easy.
No.
The market is selling off. It's so easy to make an emotional decision to get out right at the wrong time. So it does what it says in the tin of that ghastly advert, in that it is smoothing out all of that volatility and gives exceptionally good position trading signals that last quite a few months. And
so very good news for investors as opposed to traders, because a trader looking at that chart there, it made new lows sort of in recent months, and you would have been out, wouldn't you?
It's a position trading technique for those people who want to buy into a share. I don't think it should be used with leverage. It should be used buying the share itself and let it run up. With any luck, we're going to get a nice run that lasts quite a few months now.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is Bellway.
Well, Bellway, I want to show the good and the bad, because Bellway, we had an excellent signal away back just after the vote in 2016, and Bellway ran from up very strongly. It then gave a sell signal right at the top, then gave one false signal. Now, there wouldn't have been much money if you'd taken the entry and the exit. There wasn't much money lost in that.
Right.
And now it's just about to give another signal again. So I'm personally waiting on a signal from both Anglo and Bellway.
So this is literally a stop and reverse. So this would have got you out, and if you'd been sort of more of a short term, you might have considered a bearish position on that.
You certainly could have shorted the market on that, but I think it is a position trading technique in an unleveraged instrument. So I think it's a long only technique. Yes, okay. I think if you're shorting the market, you would need to finesse probably a better entry.
Okay, so Bellway looks like we're going to have a buy signal sooner rather than later.
That's right.
Let's move on to the next slide. CAS Minerals.
Well, CAS illustrates the technique, how it actually rode the trend up on CAS, a big percentage move there, and got us out of CAS right at the top at around £9. And as we speak, we're still waiting on a signal to get back into CAS. I think that signal is going to come relatively quickly. But if you were following that technique, we were in the share for the guts of a year, got us out right at the top around £9, and now you'd be sitting waiting for the next buy signal. You certainly could. If you'd shorted that one, you would have done exceptionally well, that's for sure.
But we're only taking the buys, right?
Well, I personally use the technique long only with unleveraged equities. And in terms of a position trading technique, getting rid of all the noise and focusing on the big moves, the money is made in those big moves, not in the little bits and pieces. So it is a position trading technique. I have not seen it equal in many years of researching.
Okay, let's wrap up your final slides, the important numbers. As we will say, email support@vectorvest.com. You are the Managing Director, Dr. David Paul,
That's right.
And your email, david.paul@vectorvest.com.
And also, we're at the Manchester Investment Show on Friday, and that's at the McCure Piccadilly Hotel in central Manchester. Just a short walk.
Who's organising that?
Lisa Campbell's organising that, of the London Investors Show.
London Investors Show.
We'll be there all day Friday. It'll be great to see everyone.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, Mus.